Welcome back to the good news. Today we're going to talk about the plan of happiness. This is going to be a two-parter. There's a lot to discuss in this one. The plan of happiness kind of talks about three major things. And those are, where did we come from, why are we here, and where are we going? And so the first thing we're going to talk about is, where did we come from? And we call this our pre-earth life. In our pre-earth life, we're all spirit children of our Heavenly Father. We didn't have bodies. We were there with our Heavenly Father, and He was someone we all looked up to, as we do now. And we tried to learn as much as we could from Him. But with that, we struggled with one thing, and that is the fact that He had a body of flesh and bone, and we did not. And so He provided a plan for us so that we can come here and get a body of flesh and bone, and then also return to Him through His Son Jesus Christ. And we'll talk about how His Son Jesus Christ was able to perform the atonement, which is, like I said in the last video, two parts that allowed us to return to our Heavenly Father. But something else that we were given while we were there, and this plan was presented to us, is something called agency. And agency is the ability for us to choose what we want to do. God gave us this agency so we could gain a greater understanding and become more like Him, because He understands what it is that we're naturally inclined or naturally likely to do, as He is God. And so He gave us this agency for us to be able to choose right from wrong, as we understand what is right from wrong. So under the direction of Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ created the earth, as we know from the Old Testament. And the first person that came to earth was Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve were placed in the Garden of Eden, and they were told to take care of the garden. They were shown the ways to take care of the garden. They were shown the fruit and animals, and they named the animals, and they were still in the presence of God, as they were still able to be around God. But they were innocent, and so they weren't able to fully progress. But still given that agency, they were told not to partake of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that tree was what was going to allow them to progress forward to become more like Heavenly Father. And Heavenly Father knew that with giving them this agency, that they would fall short. Again, like I said before, God knows what we're naturally inclined to do. And so, not only was Adam and Eve in the presence of Heavenly Father, but they were also in the presence of Satan. Satan was allowed to be in the garden to tempt Adam and Eve. And as we know, Eve was able to understand the importance of partaking of that fruit and allowing them to progress. So Satan tempted them. They partook of that fruit. They had their eyes spiritually as well as physically opened to understand that they were then able to move forward, because they now knew good from evil. They were no longer innocent, and because of Satan's temptation. So because of their decision to partake of that fruit, they were separated from God. God forced them out of the Garden of Eden, and they were given the rest of the earth. And they were told to multiply and replenish the earth. They were told to take care of the earth, and just as they were told to take care of the garden. So our life on earth, why are we here? We are here to learn and grow, to become more like our Heavenly Father, as we've been talking about, and to progress in exercising our agency. But also, we came here to gain a body. Before, when we were in the pre-earth life, none of us had that flesh and bone that we have now. So, in order to progress, to spend eternity with our Heavenly Father, because that's what we all desire to do, is we had to come here to gain that body. And now that we're here, we have that body of flesh and bone. And so we're one step closer to being able to live with our Heavenly Father for eternity. But we're also here to learn and grow. We're here to not only learn and grow spiritually, but physically. And we're here to learn as much of things that are related to science, as well as, things that we take interest in. Whether that's mechanics or art or, the study of the human body and the anatomy of the human body. Those things, we're here to learn as much as we can here, because all of the things that we learn here, all of those intelligent things, we take with us when we leave this earth. So how do we progress to the next part of our journey, and that being the afterlife? The only way we can do that is through the atonement of Jesus Christ. And with the atonement of Jesus Christ, there's, like we've talked about before, there's two major things that happened so that we can get to that next part. And the first one is overcoming physical death. Jesus Christ, as we know, died on Calvary, and for 3 days his body and his spirit were separated. And on the third day, his body of flesh and bone and his spirit were reunited. And because of that resurrection, we too will have the same thing. Our bodies, after we die, our spirit and our body will separate, and at some future point in time, we will be resurrected with our spirits, and our physical bodies will come back together. And the second way that we that allows us to be with our Heavenly Father is the acts that were performed in the Garden of Gethsemane by Jesus Christ. As we know, Jesus Christ took upon himself the sins of the world. And so Christ entered this garden knowing that he would do this. And he pled with his Heavenly Father to not have to do this. If there was another way, allow it to be. Because he knew the pain that he was going to suffer with taking upon himself the sins of the world. And the pain and the anguish and all the hard feelings that we've ever felt in our lives, as well as the lives of others, he's felt that. And the way he felt that is through the actions that he took in the Garden of Gethsemane. And that allows us, as we desire to become clean and to become like our Heavenly Father, when we ask for forgiveness, we're partaking of his sacrifice. And he bled from every pore, so that way we could return to our Heavenly Father. so that we can be cleansed through that atonement. And that's what allows us to move on to live with our Heavenly Father after we die, is those two things. I'm going to stop here for this first half of this discussion, and please like, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Leave any questions that you may have down in the comments, and I look at those comments, and I will be looking for those questions that you may have come about on the things that we've talked about in this first video. Make sure to watch this video first so that way you understand what we're going to be talking about in this next part. Thanks.